Right. This is the topology that we are going to use to understand route reflector in BGP. There is an rule saying a route learned from one IBGP should not be given to another IBGP. Let me explain with the picture, with this topology. I have a network here called 6.6.6.6 advertised to router 1. And router 1 and router 6 have got EBGP relationship. Whereas router 1 and 2 has got IBGP relationship. So route learned from an IBGP should not be given to another IBGP. That's the rule. These two are IBGPs. A route learned from the IBGP should not be given to another IBGP. That's the rule. In that case, full mesh is one solution, but full mesh is creating many sessions more than what we're supposed to have. See, we have only 2 neighbors. If I have 2 IBGP session, that is very reasonable. But forming more than 2 is not good. We have to avoid it. Full mesh is forming more than what we're supposed to have. More session, more CPU, more bandwidth, more updates. Fine. So what is then solution there? Solution is a route reflector. Let me repeat again. The 6.6.6.6 will come up to here. But router 2 will not give it to router 4. Same way, this 55 network will come here. It will also come here, but it won't go to router 1. Same with this also. So the problem is route learned from one IBGP should not be given to another IBGP. To solve this problem, what am I going to do? I'm going to make, in R3, I'm going to configure R4 as a client. I'm going to say R4 is a client. You can also do it in R2. Because I have written too much thing, it is too kacha. I don't want to write anymore. So let us use R3 and form R4 as a client. When I do that, that 6.6.6.6, which is also in R3, will come to router 4. And router 4 will give to router 5. So now you can see network from autonomous system 10 is reflecting in autonomous system 30. It is reflecting in autonomous system 30. All right, what is next? Now, who is a client here? R4. Who is the server? R3. Server, we don't call it a server here, we call it as cluster. The router ID of router 3 will be called as cluster ID. For example, 3.3.3.3 will be the cluster ID. Why I'm saying this? When you go to router 6 and check these 6.6.6 root, it will show that the network is originally from router 1, but it is clustered, it is reflected by 3.3.3.3. That is how you will see. Let me show you this first. In router 3, BGP table says it knows about 66666 from 1.1.1. It knows about 55 from 4.4.4. We'll configure on R3. If you see an R3, you get root, but if you go to R4, you don't see route for 6.6.6.6. Also on router 1, if you check, you don't have route for 55. The reason is the middle router is not ready to give. We learned, no? Route learned from one autonomous system, sorry, one IBGP will not be given to another IBGP. So that's the problem. Fine. Now, if I go to router 3, router BGP 20, that's the autonomous system number, and you make any one of this as a client, either R1 or R4, any one you make it as a client. I'm going to make R4 as a client. What is the command? Neighbor 4.4.4.4 route reflector client. Now, when you make this, you see it gets resetted. Now let's go to router 4. In router 4, earlier we were not seeing 6.6.6.6, but now if you see, you have got 6.6.6.6. Who is the next hop? Router 1. But listen, show IP BGP 6.6.6.6. You see, it says the originator is 1111, but who is the cluster? Means who is reflecting it? R3. You got it? Cluster list. You understand who is cluster? Cluster is the one which is making this as group clustering. So router 3's router ID is what router 4 is showing as the cluster, because that is the server. Cluster is nothing but the server. Reflector, route reflector, server. Did you understand this? Okay, now come to the point. 6.6.6.6 is coming to R4 because I told R3 to reflect the root. Now, who is the client here? R4. What about R1? Is R1 a client? No. R1 is called as non-client. So you need to understand this very well. Before we configured route reflector, there was no concept of non-client. But after you configure route reflector on R3, telling R4 as a client, R1 has become a passive or non-client. Now, read this rule. A route learned from eBGP neighbor can be forwarded to eBGP neighbor and also to a client. So, a route is coming 6.6.6.6. It is learned in an IBGP. It is given to a client. Okay, this is the point you should see. Third point. Is R1 a non-client or client? Answer, non-client. Now see the third point. A route learned from a non-client can be forwarded to eBGP. So it will be sent to R8. R8 and R3 is eBGP, right? Let's go to R8 and check. Show IP BGP. You see, you can see that, correct? Coming from router 3. You can check the show IP BGP. You can see it is coming from router 3. Right, now, what is the next thing that we saw there? It will be sent to eBGP. It will also be sent to a client. Go and check it on R4. R4 is a client. That's what you see here, correct? 6.6.6.6. It is coming to a client. Now, very important point is it will not be sent to non-client. Do I have a non-client? I don't have a non-client right now. This cannot be considered as non-client, because if this is the client, this is non-client. But router 7 is one hop away from 4. Away from 4. It is no way connected to router 3. Understand this very well. Router 3 is connected to router 1. So router 1 is a non-client. Router 4 is a client. You cannot call 7 as a non-client. Why? Router 7 is no way connected to router 7 is no way connected to the server, to router 3. So you cannot test this. What you can do is, for that, let us go to router 4 and make router 2 as a client. So if you make router 2 as a client, what will be router 7? A non-client. Do you agree? If I go to router 4 and make router 2 as a client, will router 7 be a non-client? Yes, because it is directly connected to router 4. I'll go to router 4 and say router BGP 20 neighbor 2.2.2.2 route reflector client. Now BGP will reset. Now you see router 7 is a non-client, router 2 is a client, router 7 is a non-client. Now whatever router 7 advertises, show IP BGP. Router 7 is advertising this. Router 7 and 4 are what relationship? IBGP. Normally it won't be sent to router 2. But now if you go and check in router 2, show IP BGP, you can see 77. How? Show IP BGP, it shows cluster. Who is the cluster? Router 4. Now, coming to this point number 3. But not be sent to a non-client, meaning 6.6.6.6 will still not be seen in router 1. Go and check on router 1. Show IP BGP. You see, it has not come because the rule says it cannot be sent to a non-client. Did you understand? You see, it will be sent to a client, it will be sent to an eBGP, but it will not be sent to non-client. R7 is a non-client, that's why it did not send. If you want R7 to know 6.6.6.6, what is the solution? Make this as a client. You understand? Make it as a client. Let's go to router 4 and test it. Router BGP 20, neighbor 7.7.7.7 is a route reflector client. After this, if you go to router 7, you will find 6.6.6.6. And the cluster is 2 clusters. R3 is also a cluster. R4 is also a cluster. R4 learned from R3. R4 has learned from R3 and R7 is learning from cluster 4. You understand? That is why it is called list. Okay. Now, we should be able to ping from anywhere to anywhere. Before that, I'll go to router 5 and see whether router 5 knows all the networks. Show IP BGP, route BGP. Wonderful. It has learned 6.6.6.6. It has learned 77, 77, 77, 77. And also it has learned this 88, 88, 88. So if you ping from here, source, I should be pinging. I should ping from source 55. I think router 5 is not having. See, source is not 55555. It is 5555. That is what we have advertised. The ping will happen. Likewise, if I ping 77 with the source 55, I'm able to ping. Likewise, I can also ping 88, 88, 88, 88 with the source. I'm able to ping. So the last line is the complicated line. And we have understood that a route learned from a non-client can be forwarded to eBGP as well as client, but not to the non-client. And these 2 points you will understand. Route learned from eBGP will be given to another eBGP, will be given to client, will also be given to non-client. Is R1 a non-client? Yes. And R1 has learned 55. You see, R1 has learned 55. R1 is a non-client. You understand that? Because the route was given by, when a route comes from an eBGP, it goes to another eBGP, it goes to client. Also, it is going to non-client. Is this point clear? Point number 2. Sorry, point number 1. Point number 2 is, if route is learned from a client, from client, what did you learn? 5555. Can be forwarded to eBGP, can be forwarded to another client, which is router 7 is a client, and can also be forwarded to non-client, which is R1. That also we saw. So what is the complicated point in this route reflector is, many people will not know the third line. Third line, if you know, you will be able to answer all interview questions in route reflector. What is the third line? If a route is coming from non-client, it will not be given to another non-client. It will be given to client, it will be given to neighbor, eBGP, but it won't be given to non-client. If you know this, then you can survive. All other things are common. If it is coming from a client, it will go to non-client as well as client and eBGP. If it is coming from eBGP, it will go to another eBGP client and non-client. Only place people will not know is this one. Is it clear for you? In the